Good morning, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Oh, hanging in there.
Safe Halloween in McDonough County?
Yeah, it was cold.
It was cold. Yeah.
It was cold.
Yep. Did you have a costume?
No, but did trick or treat, and in Macomb we have it 2 nights.
Oh.
So we always do the 30th and 31st. So first night had a little bit of we have one of those solo stoves. We had a little bonfire in the driveway, and we had quite a few trick or treaters. Second night, not so much. It was a little cold.
Yeah, it was cold. So does that mean the kids have to get 2 different outfits, costumes, if you have 2 nights of trick or treating?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it would make sense, but
Nah.
Just 2 nights. Go for it.
Well, good. All right, let's catch up then on law enforcement in our McDonough County area and our listeners to the south. You guys had your fair share of burglaries, but you were able to make some arrests, and those have tapered down.
We did. We made some arrests. We had a couple of gentlemen over in Hancock County that had made their way into McDonough County, and we had solved 4-wheelers, tools, mostly tools, breaking into sheds, stealing tools, right before harvest too, which made it really hard on the farmers, but we were able to solve it, get some people some restitution, and move on.
Okay, good. Speaking of farmers, back in the fields after that rain.
Yeah, took a break probably for about, 8 days, and 7-8 days, and they got started here yesterday, day before, and hopefully they'll be done here soon. So all the crops are out, so that's going to make visibility a little bit better out in the counties, and that's always a great thing for us. But then the other issue is now, we're getting into deer season, so a lot of deer crashes. So people being careful, traveling at night, especially at dusk and dawn, not hitting the pesky deer.
Are you seeing some of those already?
Oh yeah, lots. I was looking at our neighbors over in Fulton County are one of the highest as far as deer crashes go. So our area is very prone to that. So one of the great things the Illinois State Police did here just recently is they started a self-reporting website. So if you go to the Illinois State Police and you were to type in deer crash or car crash, what you can do is you can self-report your animal crashes. So if you're on a state highway and you hit a deer and your car is drivable, you can drive your car home, you just need to go to the body shop eventually, you can actually get on the Illinois State Police's website and you can report your own crash. And it's just a form that you fill out, and it'll go to the local troop. I almost said district. They'd be mad at me. It used to be a district. Now it's a troop. So it goes to the local troop, and then they approve that report. So no need to call us. If your car is drivable, you can report it yourself.
Okay. So Highway 67?
Yeah.
Much traveled road?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hitting deer. And, again, your car's drivable. You're just upset because, you need to go to the body shop. You can report that yourself and actually, save a lot of time.
And you don't recommend this for a car crash, as in 2 vehicles involved?
No, still 2 vehicles in Illinois. You need to call the police so that way they can determine fault and do their crash reports just like we normally do. But when it comes to hitting animals and your car is drivable and you are not injured, you can go ahead and do it all yourself, which is great. I thought it was great. We had the Sheriff's Association. We had some discussions with the director of the Illinois State Police probably about a year ago, and then they rolled this out here a few months ago. Didn't get a lot of attention. I did see it on the local news, on the TV station, but just one day, and I just wanted to kind of spread the word because it saves everybody a lot of time. A lot of people think that, well, I hit a deer, so I need a crash report. Well, you don't. The deer doesn't have insurance. So what people don't understand is that's coming out of your pocket no matter what. This is just a great way to save a lot of time, and it frees up the troopers, it frees up the deputies, it frees up the police officers in those local jurisdictions. They don't have to do that paperwork anymore.
Okay, that's good to know. Illinois State Police website then for self-reporting crashes, animal crashes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, you want to talk about the good and bad of the Safety Act since its implementation?
Okay, so good and bad. So one of the good things is the jail population has reduced a little bit. I haven't seen it as much in my county as some, but I have reports from other sheriffs around me and across the state. Their populations have been reduced dramatically. So there's a little bit of cost savings there, I think, for as far as the county goes. Some of the bad things. So been in law enforcement now for 17 years, and just getting used to the fact that someone comes to jail for, DUI, and they get processed and just released. I mean, there's no bond. They don't have to give up their driver's license. Literally just get a DUI, come to jail, get some fingerprints, take a picture. Here's your tickets, and right out the door. I think that behavior has to change, because I think it's going to, again, just lead to more DUIs. Some of the other things, your retail thefts and your theft, even your felony thefts that are of a lower category, just coming to jail, getting fingerprinted, and being released. So it's kind of a shock. Like I was talking to you before we were on the air, and just as a officer that's, I'm getting there as far as getting close to 20 years. It's a little shocking to me just to see people come in and get processed right out and walk out the door.
How did the
it's odd.
Those being arrested, I mean, technically, will you really call it an arrest because you're getting released immediately?
Yeah,
How are they reacting to this? What do you hear from them?
Some of the negatives of that, like I had a gentleman come up here from like Kentucky and turn himself in. And the reason he did is because he thought, well, you guys are just going to let me go. And the judge is like, no, you owe us this much money in fines. And, they had their conversation in court. And so I think like the word got out that you just, I can turn myself in and you're going to recog me. You're just going to let me go. So I see that being a negative effect. Just overall, people will commit more crime because there's just absolutely no consequence for doing so. That was just one of the little tidbits I got. That was yesterday or the day before when I was in court. I watched that and I had to laugh a little bit because he's like, "You're going to let me go?" The judge was like, No, we're not just going to let you go. So there is that perception, I think, by some that it's just sort of a free-for-all, and especially since he was from another state. I mean, I think he really had that impression that he was just going to come up here, turn myself in, you guys going to let me go? No, but yeah. So definitely a negative effect, I think. It's going to lead to more crime. I promise.
And how will your officers and deputies handle that? Because at some point, do they? You got to arrest them.
Oh yeah. I mean, they have warrants. It's that expectation now that you've. I mean, the majority of us, the vast majority of us, we don't want to commit crime, and we would be ashamed of ourselves if we did.
Right.
And just to see that, just brazen type of behavior like that, you're going to let me go? No, not necessarily. So, yeah, getting ready for the future. That's the future.
Okay.
You're just going to let me go.
Well, and the good news is when we get to sit down on November 16th with our legislators, this is what they want to hear from both parties, because what's working, what's not working, no one else has attempted this type of legislation before.
No.
So we've got to tell them what's working and what's not working.
And I still think there's going to be modifications. I really do, Vanessa. I think I think in the future we will, if we track it honestly, if we compare apples to apples, I think we will see some more changes to the Safety Act. And like some of those little nuances I brought up with, like, especially with the DUI, I feel so, it just feels so strange bringing them in, process them, and just being like, well, all right, see you later, bye. We, again, don't even take their driver's license. It's odd.
And imagine
it's
the
odd.
Bigger cities, what they're dealing with if we are seeing what we see in our smaller communities.
Yeah. And then I also look at it like are there going to be officers? Are there going to be deputies? Are there going to be troopers out there that just don't bother with some things anymore? Because I think you're going to have that effect as well. I think you're going to have people out there that just look at it like, you're doing this type of behavior, or you're doing this, and are we just going to, look the other way and not process you, I guess is the best way to put it, because that's essentially all you're really doing. You take them, you process them, and here's your ticket. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Here's your court date.
Very, very different, isn't it?
It's very different.
Well, coming up before the Legislative Forum, it is Veterans Day.
Oh.
And you,
near
sir,
and dear to my heart. Yes.
are a veteran, a former, a Marine, I should say.
Yes,
So thank you for your
you said it
service.
right. A lot of people do the former, used to be. Like the Marines are very fanatic about.
Yes.
We're still Marines.
You are still a Marine, yes. And thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into the Marines and where you went.
How I got in the Marine Corps. Well, that was a lot of fun. To be honest with you, I came to Western Illinois University because in the late 90s, everyone told you had to go to college. I mean, that was the thing. You had to go to college. It wasn't about trade schools. It wasn't about some of these other things that we really need right now. Have to go to college. So I came down to Western, had to go to college. I had a really good time. I had a very good time in Macomb. A little too good of time in Macomb.
It was the 90s.
Oh, I had a great time. Yeah. Late 90s in Macomb were a blast. Adams Street, the Pace, the Ritz.
Sure.
I mean, at the top of the town, the cafe. I mean, I'm giving a shout out here. So, had a really good time. So I wound up in the Marine Corps. You can just kind of fill in the rest. So I wound up in the Marine Corps after a year. So I really impressed my parents when I was 17 years old. I joined the Marine Corps, and I was going to be an officer of the United States Marine Corps. So I was going to go to Western, I was going to go to boot camp, and then I was going to go back, and then I was going to keep going back and forth. And then at the end of my 4 years, I was going to be an officer in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. Well, that didn't work out. So I called my recruiter up one day, and I was like, "Hey, my grades are not really that great." He laughed at me, and he was absolutely upset with me. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to go active duty," which he was really, then that kind of changed his tune. So I wound up in the Marine Corps in 1999. I went out to San Diego, and then I kind of bounced around the United States after that. So I was an aircraft maintenance technician on Harriers. So I fixed anti-radar equipment, and I bounced from Pensacola to Virginia, and then back out west. And the Marine Corps is really neat. And then September 11th happened. So I have a very unique point of view, like as far as being in the military, prior to September 11th and then after September 11th, and just seeing how everything changed. When I first joined the Marine Corps, we were still using equipment from literally Vietnam era. And just to see the amount of money and care and attention that the military got after September 11th was just incredible. Technology changed, equipment changed. I drove, overseas, Kuwait, Iraq, and, didn't have body armor, and things like that. Like it was just neat to see how that it changed rapidly in a very short amount of time. So I did a few deployments, got to see the world. I'm a better man for it, and came back and went to Western.
Yeah.
So finished my degree.
And Iraq and Kuwait, that's where you were overseas?
I was on a Westpac, but right after September 11th, and then in 2003, I was overseas for the war. So
isn't it amazing? And here we are with today's world. We're sort of right back at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so
that part of the world just seems to.
Yeah, it was. So my wife's brother-in-law is a Marine, and prior to us leaving Afghanistan, my son's getting to be that age. So, my son was looking at, possibly being in the same war that his uncle and his dad were in. Like that's unheard of. Mm-hmm. So we were, I was a little disappointed in how we left Afghanistan, and I still am. And, but now, in light of some recent events, it's like that sort of 2001, 2002, the war on terror, like we're starting to just kind of see that all sort of reinvent itself again. So
sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, history repeats itself. And
it does.
Yeah.
So, but I'm so thankful for all the veterans. I'm so thankful for everyone serving right now, because we get to lay our heads down at night because somebody's looking out for us.
I'm a huge fan. Like if you're 17, 18 years old and you don't know what you want to do with your life, join the military. I tell these kids that. Join the National Guard. Join the Air National Guard. There's a unit over in Peoria. Seriously, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, and that's just what I needed to kind of set me down the right path. And it's just, yeah, I'm a huge supporter of the armed services. So.
What part of the U.S. did you like the most, since you got to see quite a bit of it?
You know, I liked being out in Virginia. I really did. I liked the East Coast. The water was warm. Believe it or not, everyone's like, "Oh, go to California, right?" Well, you dip a toe in the West Coast, and you're like, "This is cold." So, I like the Carolinas, North Carolina, Virginia. I really enjoyed being out there, and Stacy and I still go out that way for vacation to this day.
Yeah, we have a beautiful country. You don't
do?
even need to leave. There's so much to see.
You don't. Florida was nice. I was in Pensacola, Florida. Beautiful, Destin, so got to go out west. I was in San Diego. I was in Arizona for quite a bit of time. So, yeah, great country.
Nice. Okay, and Veterans Day is coming very, very soon. Just a reminder, on Saturday, Veterans Day, we will be at the American Legion at 10 o'clock for the program. What message do you have for veterans today, Sheriff Petitgout?
Veterans, I guess my message would be just, thank you for your service and continue to serve. I mean, I think that's the one thing that people kind of overlook with veterans is that the vast majority of us continue to serve. I tell people all the time, like, I have done nothing but work for the government since I was 18, 19 years old. That's been my entire life, whether I was in the Marine Corps and then, becoming a deputy sheriff and a police officer and eventually the sheriff. So just a life of service. I think that's the most important thing to take away from it. It instills that in most people.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming in this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it, ladies. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you again. We'll see you at the Legislative Forum and probably freezing for food.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sheriff Nicholas Petitgout with us from McDonough County.